this AI stuff that we're talking about is literally going to change the way that people do dentistry. And it's going to show who the top 10% dentists really are and who the bottom 10% are and why that is and why their treatment isn't holding up or isn't doing the job that it's supposed to be doing, and why the ones at the top, how they're approaching it that other people maybe haven't thought about or haven't considered or haven't looked at. And so I think when it lands that close to home, it does sting a little bit more. Welcome to another episode of Dental Riffs. My name is Gary Bird. I'm the CEO of SMC National. We are a digital marketing company that helps dental offices have predictable new patient flow.
I am Tanner Applegate, the CEO and co-founder of Unify. We are a SaaS product that helps dental offices kind of standardize and centralize their processes as well as their password management in one place.
So Tanner, I heard you're having a new update that you're rolling out on your platform soon.
Yeah, we've been working on it for a while. We've obviously, my background has been in DSOs, love the DSO world, love the energy, excitement of building, et cetera. One of the things though that we always struggled with is like the DSO legal structure or complexity that a DSO brings. Like a lot of these off-the-shelf platforms that are non-dental just don't work for that structure, right? And so one of the things that we're rolling out is this whole idea of dental offices are tags, which allows you to be able to have a lot more flexibility in how you organize your structure within Unify for a DSO, right? Like if I wanted to go in and like, for example, like a LastPass, I had to go in and organize by office to make sure that it was by office. And now all of a sudden for Unify, I can tag a specific login as an office and it can exist in multiple folders. And so that way, when I go and I filter somebody, say, hey, you only have access to this office, it filters out everyone that's not that office. And so now all of a sudden the organizational structure of the company is a lot cleaner. So I think the DSOs are really going to like it. It's going to be a lot of benefit. I wish I had it when I was running mine. So I'm excited about that.
Question. So can you do like regions and stuff too? So if I have like 50 locations and I have like the Pacific region versus the Northwest region or whatever, can you break like that too?
Yeah, I think that we've got that rolling out right now. We're rolling out the office one first. Our largest group
you got to do office
is,
level first.
Yeah, 20 locations. And so 20 locations, they're not really too worried about regions yet, but we do have an 80 location group that's looking to come on, and they're definitely going to need regional based organization.
Yeah. Well, and I assume because you can check single location, so you could say, hey, I got this regional manager over here that's going to manage these 20 practices. You would just check all 20 practices and that would be your region, right?
Right. No, I was just going to say the cool thing about it too is that I love DSOs and the centralization of processes like RCMs under one business, marketing even, right? Like marketing within one team. Mm-hmm. And so now to be able to go and do regional based off of marketing positions, right? I am the social media manager of these 20 locations, right? Now I can easily and cleanly go through here's my logins for each of these different locations. I do it once. I don't have to go in and manually add them to 100 plus different different applications in which they log in. It's so clean. It's so easy.
That's awesome. Do you got any topics you want to kick us off with today? Or you want me to start us off? I have.
I've been thinking a lot about one thing that I would love to pick your brain on, especially knowing that there's been a large shift in this in your world, which is like the creative side of everything, right? So the thing that's been on my mind a lot is AI. We see AI kind of creeping into dental now, right? We've got it into the clinical side. We've had a good conversations or two with some people that have some vested interest in what the AI spits out in that realm. We've seen a lot of AI be kind of replacing a lot of like the left brain stuff, right? The analytical, like process oriented type of things. But now for anyone that's been paying attention to AI, there's been this huge shift where AI is now starting to replace the right brain stuff of the creativity and all of these like little things. Like you can go in and almost have AI create full on videos for you that are really pretty decent. I ran into one that AI is like, they did this AI interview where they fed it a bunch of input from clips or stuff from these really large, I guess, famous people, right? So we got like the Steve Jobs or whatever, and they went through and they created that. Did you watch that episode?
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah,
it's really
so crazy.
cool. It's really cool, and it's gonna disrupt things. I find it fascinating. We did that last episode, and the feedback I'm getting from people is that basically the feeling I get is dentists aren't really on board with this AI stuff. Like it doesn't,
Right.
they're not. There's some people who are excited about it, and there's some champions of it, but everybody else is just either ghosting it and saying like, yeah, it's fine, whatever. You guys go over there and do your thing, or they're even anti AI and how it's bad for the dental industry and how it's going to just wreck everything. I'm really fascinated by that. I don't understand why that is, but it is something that I'm very, very curious about.
Totally. I mean, I think it's the adoption curve of anything, right? It's just the same thing. Like 20 years ago, you tell people you're part of a DSO, they pretty much ostracize you and say like, "Hey, you're Satan's spawn." And now all of a sudden you tell them you're
Mm,
part of a DESO, they come to you and they're like, "Oh, hey, I'm interested in doing that. Like, can I do that as well, or can I build that myself?" Right?
yeah.
It's just kind of a matter of time and adoption, and I think that that's going to
Even
be the exact same thing for
marketing was
AI.
the same way. Yeah, marketing was soon enough to where in dental that you could, yeah, people looked down on people who marketed. So there was offices that would market, and then the other offices would look at that person as a bad dentist. They were a bad person and a bad, like morally speaking, they weren't good people because they are marketing, and that's bad for the industry overall. Now everybody markets, right? Or like 99% of people market in some way. So now that stigma has left. And so I think you're right. I think AI is going to definitely impact it. I also think it hits a little bit closer to home for the
Hmm.
dentist than the other things that we just talked about. So a DSO, yeah, that hits home for a dentist, but I can still practice the way that I want to practice. Yeah, marketing, yeah, it brings in the patients that I want or don't want, but it doesn't hit straight home for me. This AI stuff that we're talking about is literally going to change the way that people do dentistry, and it's going to show who the top 10% dentists really are and who the bottom 10% are and why that is and why their treatment isn't holding up or isn't doing the job that it's supposed to be doing, and why the ones at the top, how they're approaching it that other people maybe haven't thought about or haven't considered or haven't looked at. And so I think when it lands that close to home, it does sting a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. I agree. It's the whole idea of the DSO, like just like you mentioned, the DSOs are. It's a business function that I'm okay letting go because I wasn't an expert in it anyways. I didn't go to school for 4 years to be a business expert, right? But then all of a
Yeah.
sudden, like I went to school the 4 years to define exactly how I want to do my treatment planning. And so to have this technology come in and tell me what's right and what's wrong in my treatment planning, it does touch home, right? Like I am like emotionally connected to this in a way that I deem myself expert. And now all of a sudden people, this third party that I can't connect with, it's not a human being, it's an actual idea, right? It's an
It's a
algorithm,
robot.
it's an aggregation of a bunch of different ideas, is telling
Yeah.
me that I'm wrong. And that's, yeah, I can see that definitely being hard.
Yeah, it's going to be a big shift for people, I think, but it's going to in the long run, I think it'll be better overall.
Where else
I
do you
just
think it starts to impact dental next? Obviously, the clinical side of it's starting to get shaken up now, but what about outside of clinical?
well, so here's how I look at it as a marketer. Once I get my hands on that data, I'm going to start marketing and saying we are the top this XYZ dentist, not because we just say so on a Google ad, but because we have this evidence. And so now you're going to be able to start speaking in a different way that I am in the top 10%. So, how most dentists market now is I went to school here, which means something to a dentist, but to people, they're like, we don't know dentists outside of dentistry. We don't know what dental schools are great and which ones aren't. And then the other way that people do it is I'm an Invisalign gold provider or platinum provider, which just means I sold a bunch of Invisalign, right? Doesn't mean that there was any kind of special outcome or top notch outcome. So it's going to start to shift that focus. Right now, the closest thing we have to something like this is like, I'm a dentist and I work on famous people. So therefore, my outcomes must be amazing. There's nothing really else that can signify. And as we talked about in that last episode, it really, in dental, it's illegal to say, I am better than this person or this person. But I think that's all going to change. And then once patients get their hands on that, that's going to transform everything, because already you're starting to see saturation in like Google reviews and Yelp reviews, and if everybody in the market has 200 Google reviews, 5-star Google reviews, what is a Google review really worth at that point, right? So there's going to be another level of information that patients are going to have to be able to grade offices. And that's what I'm really looking at.
Yeah, I'm interested though. I think that's the benchmark, and this has been something that I've always noticed about kind of the dental industry in general, is that the benchmark in which dentists grade each other is not the benchmark in which patients grade the dentist, right? So if
Correct.
the dentist is saying, hey, I'm in the top 10%, I can go and pay to be in a magazine that sponsors the top dentists of my area right now. How would that be any different from a patient's perspective, right? Like both of them are, I'm a top dentist, when in reality, one is actually clinically outcome based, where the other one is like pay to play based, right?
Well,
So
so
if a
and so
patient
that's
doesn't know the difference, what does it matter?
what does that's the part that you can speak to now. My dental implants on average last this long. The industry average is this long. That's a huge difference. My crowns last this long. If you come here and you get a crown from me, our crowns last this long. Everybody else's only last this long. That's a huge. You can actually sell that. That is a marketable thing.
I'm interested to see if the higher powers that be, right, the insurance boards of each state will allow things like that. Because I could
That's a
see
totally
things
different
like patient
conversation.
demographics. Yeah, I could see patient demographics playing into that, where it's like, yeah, yours lasts longer because you only treat this segment of the population that has good hygiene, right? Like, so now all of a sudden it's like, okay, legally you can't do that, and that'll be something that we will have to just kind of wait and see and
Yeah, but
play
it's the
out.
same. It's the same thing we've already seen play out before. It was at one point illegal to market as a dentist, and everything was ruled by decree. Everybody, the markets were formed based on, nope, we're not going to let this dentist in. We're not going to let this dentist in. So that way we have as much demand as we want. But over time, people are like, you can't do that. It's not right that you're doing this, and we're going to fight you tooth and nail. And then someone comes out and just starts marketing. Next guy does it, and they can't fight everybody, right? Same thing's going to happen with the insurance. The insurance centralized model, the way that they run it, is a broken system, especially for dental. It's really, really broken for dental. It will be changed. Someone's going to break the mold and start figuring it out and start, like all these in-house memberships that you see, right? There's all these different in-house memberships, and people are building those out. Well, once those take hold and start chipping away at the dental insurance model, then that's going to open the door for this kind of stuff, because the insurance agencies aren't going to have the manpower to fight it.
Yeah, I'm interested though to see how that plays out. We had a whole long conversation about this in the previous episode around insurances, but the reality is the DSOs have changed the insurance world, where there's not a push to purify insurance, right? It's I've got a patient flow game to play as a DSO, that yes, I'm going to get in bed with insurances. Yes, my payment might be lower, but I also have the ability to have scale, right? And therefore can reduce my costs. And so I'm okay getting a lower payment as long as I have a lot of patients. And so I don't know
Yeah,
if how
that's
much
true.
it will change as long as the insurance world the DSO world continues to be the way that it is. So it will be
So do you
interesting.
think,
Right now, I see the biggest shift in our industry is that over the last 10 years, it's been a land grab for DSOs, right? The DSOs, in order to become better, you got to figure out, how can I attract more dentists to be a part of my group, right? As we see that happening more and more and more over these next few years, my projection is 3-4 years, it's going to then change from lab grab with PE backing to individual group optimizations of figuring out those margins, right? And when that happens, that will completely shift the way that the dental industry interacts within itself.
yeah, 100%. I totally agree with that. And it's going to be interesting how insurance and all those things come into play, because the other thing is, when medical starts to consolidate more, and does dental get rolled up in medical, or is it going to be a separate thing? If it gets rolled up, then that's going to change how insurance works inside of dental. And then there's other people that I've been talking with that have figured out how to do implants on health insurance rather than on dental insurance, and they're building out models around that, and they've found workarounds on that. So there's going to be more and more research done, more and more opportunities. If dental moves more to a health insurance model, that'll totally change everything in how we operate as an industry.
For sure. So I'm excited to see that shift happen. I do think that there's a lot of things that are going to change there. I think that you're in a good situation there, because if you're going in to optimize internally each individual offices and their revenue, marketing is an easy way to go and optimize that.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Same with
And
Unify and process optimization it's key too. And so I'm setting myself up for that shift.
yeah, it's interesting, because right now marketing's way low on the list of priorities, because if you don't have people, then you don't need marketing, right? So everybody's backed up, and there's actually more patients than there are dentists right now to serve them, or hygienists to serve them, or whatever, however you look at that. And so over time, what's going to happen though, that's all going to shift again. And
Right.
there's going to become a demand. And when that happens, if people's marketing is not where it needs to be, or if people's systems internally are not where they need to be and they go to pivot, everything falls apart. And that's when business is really, really painful. When you go, all right, we just opened 4 more practices, or we just bought 5 more practices, and here we go, we're going to market like crazy, and you double, triple your budget and none of it works. That's when it's like, and it becomes a fire, more than than just something nice to have. And same thing with even something as simple as logins. When you go to scale, and every time you go to log into Facebook, you can't, you're kicked out, and because you can't access the Facebook logins, that becomes very, very problematic. And then when you multiply that times 100, now you got big problems. And so
Right.
there's so much wasted manpower around those kind of things. Once that changes, it's going to really help people move fast.
Totally. No, and I think that as the industry focuses more and more on that, then the demand for what is needed to fix those problems that don't currently exist will become more and more in demand, and we'll start seeing those pop up more.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Okay, I'm
exciting.
going to change gears on us.
Yeah,
I want to bounce something off of you. A little bit of cool opportunity, but I just wanted to bounce it off of you and get your thoughts on it. So we're doing the dental marketing boot camp in December, and we're
excited
going to
about
launch
that.
that. I'm excited too. I think we got about 40, 50 people signed up for it right now. I think we're at like 30 different offices, and we still got about 2 months or about a month and a half until we launch it. So I'm excited about that. So, but I talked to Brian from Dicoma, and I asked him, I said, hey, I would love to take the boot camp, take what I learned, simplify it, and do a Dicoma launch the Wednesday before. They usually do Thursday, Friday. So the Wednesday before, and bring in marketing people, bring in the dentist, bring in the people who want help around marketing, so that you have a little bit of a mini boot camp there. And he was on board with it. So we're working on fleshing that out. So I'm trying to think through my head, like what would be most valuable, because I want to help Dicoma, so people bring their marketing managers to Dicoma, right? That's valuable because you have more people coming now. But then I also want to provide content that's going to help people. And so I'm trying to work through how to take something that's really should probably be a 2-day thing. We squeeze it into a day. And how do I squeeze that now into 3 hours? So I'm kind of working through that right now.
Yeah, what do you got? What are you thinking through right now? What are your thoughts?
Well, it depends on the avatar, right? So, but
Right.
overall, I think it's just patient flow, how to really think about patient flow, and right now in dentistry, there's not even a baseline of KPIs and a baseline of what's the difference between lead gen and branding. We don't even have our definitions like nailed down. And so a lot of times what happens is dentists go out there and they're like, all right, here's 10 grand, build me a new site or make me a new logo. And they think that that's going to end in more patients, but they don't realize they just invested in branding, which if branding doesn't get in front of anybody, it doesn't mean anything. And so they don't realize that. So they just spent all this money on infrastructure, which is great. But now it's like, now you have to actually learn how to market. And so just definitions of like partnering with vendors, definitions on reporting to leadership. I think a lot of marketing managers I've personally seen marketing managers get fired over and over and over again because they don't know how to articulate their actions are actually equaling outcomes. And it's not because they're good or bad, or it's not because they're knowledgeable or not knowledgeable. It's because they don't know how to bridge that PMS gap of all the activities they got over here and the end result over here.
Yeah. No, I like those. I think those are smart. I think that avatar, though, you're right. It completely depends on that, because if you were talking to the CEO or high level executive of a DSO that's smaller, emerging, they may not have that individual. It's like, hey, here's how to report it. In their mind, they may be saying, how do I get this information if I don't have somebody managing this right now? Right? When
Yeah.
do I need
Yeah.
that person, et cetera? So I guess that avatar is crucial to identify first.
It is, yeah. And hiring, the other thing that we're creating a whole segment around is hiring a marketing manager. So that might be where we want to focus, is like, maybe we tell them, because they said we'll keep it at 100 people. So maybe we tell them, hey, this is for offices. If you're at 10 or less offices, this is for you. And so we focus on, here's how to hire a marketing manager. Here's how to track the marketing manager. Here's how to, the KPIs that you want to focus on. Maybe we go something like that.
Yeah, I think that's probably the smartest route to go. I think there's still a lot of value to that for marketing managers, right? They just have to go in and adapt it to kind of their paradigm and what they're having to deal with. But I do think that you should speak to the higher level executives of a emerging DSO and how to figure out or think about marketing from their perspective.
Okay, that's a good call. Yeah, because that's who's going to be at the thing, and then we encourage them to bring their marketing people. I think that's the way to do it.
One thing though that's interesting to me about marketing, and you and I have had a lot of conversations about this, is I think that the marketing efforts of dental have done a great job where there's the stigma that marketing needs to exist, right? Nobody questions in DSOs, I need marketing, right? But the reality is too, though, is that marketing is only needs to exist, or it only needs to be really kind of optimized when you have the other parts of the funnel taken care of, right?
Yep.
So if you think about like the patient flow, or even like the work done on patients, if you haven't optimized that kind of stuff, the patient flow internally, it's the most expensive part to be putting a lot of money into marketing just to turn around and lose those. Right. So one of the things that I would suggest taking care of is say, hey, what's the checklist look like before I start really honing in on my marketing? What do I need to
Yeah,
ensure
it's
that I
tricky
have
though
kind of worked
because
on?
it's tricky because I get these calls every single day, right? So I'm fielding these calls and I go through this. I call it the black hole marketing. And I go, okay, do you know what the average unanswered call rate is? No. Do you know what your unanswered call rate is? No. Okay, you're probably at the average. It's 35%. And so that means if you're spending $10,000, $3,500 is going down the drain of your marketing opportunities, and you'll never get them back. There's no way to get it back. And then from there, do you know what the average phone conversion rate is? Yeah, it's 50%. Okay. So now you're losing 50% of your opportunities on the phone because your people aren't trained and there's no accountability. There's no KPI for them to hit on conversion. So you're losing half of that. And then your show rate can jump for marketing patients can jump up to 30% if you're booking too far out. And then people always push back on that one. No. It's not that far out. It's only 2 weeks. It's only 3 weeks. And our no-show rate is not that high. Yes, but when you're taking marketing patients, they go really, if you put them more than a couple days out, your no-show rate's going to jump massively, 20, 30%. Okay. And then what's your recare rate? So most dental practices recare rate of their marketing is 30%. That means you're only keeping a fraction of what marketing actually is producing. That's assuming if marketing's doing a really good job. So I try to go through that, but then internally, to your point, there's also the treatment that you're getting them to accept as they go through this journey. So it's tricky for people to track it because when they go in to look at all their softwares, because they're aggregating everything collectively, it actually shows that they're doing a decent job. So their no-show rate isn't that high and their recare rate is really high and everything looks good. And even their answered rate looks good because you have so many calls coming in. So it's really tricky for these organizations to do what you just said to really optimize things. Unless are you talking about a little more specific, like drilling down even further?
Obviously, the patient journey, right? There's the funnel of marketing that gets them in the door. But then once they're in the door, a lot of these processes, which you kind of touched on, but I think in a more succinct way, they need to be addressed of like, hey, what is my treatment case acceptance, right? Like, how do I even measure that if I don't have a tool that's telling me my treatment case acceptance? What should I standardize? What should I not? How do I educate on this? What are my resources, et cetera? And so I think that those opportunities of like, yeah, you can get people in the door, but that doesn't mean that they're going to get work done, right? You can get people in the door, doesn't mean they're going to return. You can get people in the door
Yeah.
and yada, yada. Like there's a whole checklist of these things that I think
Yeah.
that it would be.
It's so tricky.
Right. Right. And I agree. I
Yeah, it's
think
hard.
that for everyone where they're at, it is hard, but it doesn't discount the need or the value of that conversation.
No, you're 100% right. So what we do is we look at, because we can't look at their books before we start with them, right? So we look at ROI first appointment, ROI 30-day, ROI 90 days, and then lifetime rolling average, or not rolling average, lifetime value. So that keeps rolling, and we can look at different blocks so we can see, hey, this number isn't going up, or hey, you're not accepting any treatment on the first visit, but over the next 30 days, you're accepting a lot of treatment. That tells us something, right? But that's not in depth enough. I definitely think you're right. How would someone go about fixing that? How would somebody go about even looking at those numbers?
It might be, there's a lot of people right now trying to provide data dashboards, and it might be worth actually trying to do a partnership with one of those to say, hey, because you've paid for this event and you're here early for this, we'll give you a free office analysis beforehand, plug into this data tool here, and then we'll discuss it at this event. And that's something that I think that I'd love to be a part of as well, is just saying, educating on where are the pieces that need to be measured, identifying a data tool or company that would partner in that, and then rolling that out to these people to be able to say, hey, pre-marketing, here's a conversation that needs to be had about your organization, right? Here are the biggest risks and returns based off of your results there. And maybe even saying, hey, here are your results that you've actually generated because this company was willing to plug in and give you your results before this event.
So you wanna head that up for me?
Yeah, I think we could look into that for sure.
Okay, if you
For
can
Dykema?
figure that out, yeah. If you can figure that out, then we'll piece that in, and then we'll work that into the next dental marketing bootcamp too. Like we'll just make it a staple of like, here's the baseline that you should be looking at.
I think your dental marketing bootcamp is a different avatar. Your dental marketing bootcamp should be those that are focused on marketing, and
But
they're not influencing
totally,
the rest of the journey.
no, I totally agree with that. But if we can arm them with basic baseline information, then they can go back and push on operations. So here's what I've learned about dental. The more I learn about dentistry and the more I learn about where things should be and why they should be there, the more effective I become in having conversations around dental marketing. And so the reason I know all this weird, random stuff that no other marketing people know is because I actually pay attention. I go to these seminars and I sit there and I listen and I go, oh, that's how hygiene should be ran. And then I go to these other practices and I go, you don't run your hygiene this way. And this is why these marketing patients are breaking before they even get to your hygiene department, right? And so I think arming people with basic baseline information is really valuable. And I think the dashboard idea is great.
Okay. Yeah, I'll reach out to some of my contacts in Data Dashboard. If anyone's listening to this from a data as a service company, let me know if you're interested in partnering. But otherwise, I'll reach out to my contacts that I know at these locations and see if they're interested in playing forth, because it's going to be a cost for them.
Yeah.
Are you planning on, because like, I know, for example, Tusk does these pre-event events where they charge extra for them. Are you planning on charging extra for this one? Okay.
I think so. Yeah, it's kind of Dykema's deal. So I'm doing whatever the way Dykema sets it up, and then we provide the content.
Yeah, and it might be, if I can get a partner that's interested in doing this, we might be able to say, hey, here's 2 pricing tiers. Here's one if we don't give you a specific office diagnosis beforehand, and here's one if we do.
Yep, that'd be awesome.
That'd be interesting.
Sponsorship. Yeah, that's great. Okay, so I got something else that we're working on that I think you'll be really interested in. So I got a crazy story. So here's what we've learned about working with offices that do dental implants, especially larger case dental implants. So what usually ends up happening for most dental marketing, or with most dental implant marketing, is that you end up getting all this interest. So you get 200, 300 leads, and you have to sort through those leads. And then how the offices are sorting through those leads are through phone and email. That's basically their CRM. And then from there, if the patients don't ever make it in, you have no idea whatever really happens to those patients. There's no way to follow up. There's no way to get back in front of them. There might be something you could send an email once or twice or something like that. And so the reason that this happens is let me back up. So then here's what happens. So the front desk says, this marketing stinks. I couldn't even call these people back. They're not qualified. They're not qualified patients. And we need to change marketing, right? Because we didn't get anybody from it. So we spent $10,000, we didn't get anything from it. Or maybe we got lucky and got one big case from it. And so the reason that's happening is because the larger the case, the more of a lead nurture process you have to have. And dentistry is just flat out not used to that. And so we've actually started to beta test lead nurturing, but us managing it. And then we started to measure the time invested into it. So for every about $5,000 to $10,000, you're going to invest about 2 hours a day into lead nurturing just to get the person to the office. And you have to keep that going, which right now, as you know, offices don't have the support to be able to do that. They don't have an extra 2 hours a day. So when you're just all of a sudden, it's just like anytime you add specialty to an office, it's never that easy, right? Just like, oh, just add specialty. Well, do you have an extra 2 hours a day at the front desk to do this lead nurture? Because they're used to just doing, just regular follow-up, and either from a referral or from a doctor referral, or even from if they're just doing GP and now they're adding in this specialty. So what we started to do is we started to segment it. And then what we did is we built out our own CRM to be able to walk through and see where each person's breaking in the journey, and then market to them uniquely where they're at in the journey. So early on, it's more about text. Later on, it's more about email. Then it's phone call. And it's just working each step of that journey in a different way and thinking about it like a sales cycle. And this has been insanely successful. So every office that we've implemented it for, all of a sudden their implants go through the roof and they're able to actually see the results. And the cool part is they get these 200 leads still, but they only end up with like 5 cases or 4 cases into the office. And they're really, really happy without adding that much additional manpower. So 2 things that we're doing. Number one, we're starting now just to tell people we're not even going to do this kind of marketing for you unless you let us do the lead nurturing. And then number 2, we're working on this CRM because I've heard several big dental brands, big ones. If I said their name, everybody would know who they were. They're working on CRMs, and I know how much they're paying for them. It gets into the millions of dollars to build out a CRM for yourself. So we're coming out with one. We're going to drop it at the end of this year, and I'm really excited about it because it's something that gets quick traction and it's easy to plug in. And I think it's going to serve this like mid-market DSO who wants to add specialty, and give really a lot of clarity around where their systems are breaking.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant. That's super exciting. It's definitely needed in the space. No one's touching that, even though it needs to be, right? It's just the leveling up of 101 of kind of marketing in general within dental. What happens in my mind is you're sitting there saying that is the change management aspect of it, right? If you said, hey, I have a product for CRM, and you were to try and roll it out to the majority of DSOs, they'd be like, I have no idea what to do with this. Like, I don't have the capacity for it. So I think the brilliance in all of this is the ability for them to outsource it to you guys until they have the opportunity to bring that in-house, right? Yep. There's still a lot of, I think that the lift on your side is going to be extremely high because anytime you get involved in scheduling, if you're doing direct scheduling, maybe you're not doing direct scheduling, but you're doing lead handoffs like other products. So you're doing direct scheduling. The thing about scheduling though, and change management and scheduling is that change management and scheduling is not just changing like the administrative front end side of a dental office, is also now changing the back end clinical side of a dental office, right? So whether you have to implement some type of predictable scheduling structure that you then have to train on your team, and your team has to get extremely efficient in how they are switching between these different scheduling styles in offices. I can see that being the biggest bottleneck. How are you overcoming that?
So far, the offices that we're doing it with, they are specialty offices. So I think where this is going to become a big problem is when GP tries to move to specialty. So the offices that are already specialty already have their schedules set up the way that they want them, and they're already seeing these kind of treatments. Where it gets really sticky is when GP's just like, yeah, here's some slots for specialty. So I don't think we've gotten that far into the process yet, but I'm definitely going to be bringing that up and talking through that. I would love your feedback on that, how to tackle that.
Yeah, because that's a huge issue, is just scheduling management, change management. That was the biggest hurdle for like local med, was they were this third party company that literally like the office was setting up their own structure, but yet you have front end and back end conflicts of like, oh, local med is the problem for this person being scheduled here. When in reality, it's just the miscommunication between the front and back of like, what are these scheduling guidelines that you have been pre-programmed into a program that makes it predictable, but yet not efficient. So you guys are adding on a third element of outsourced schedulers, admin, and the back office now. So there's definitely, I think, ways that you can overcome it, but it's going to require a lot of change management, which is then project management ultimately on your part to roll it out.
100%. Yep. It's
excited about that though. I do think it's extremely needed.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's needed, but I think this is like solves the problem really quickly and gets them what they need really quickly, and which is they want the new patients, they want the specialty. But I think as a whole, offices are struggling with just bringing in specialty. Everybody's always like, yeah, just increase your revenue by adding specialty, and just slap it in there, and it never works like that.
Oh, totally. And I've been connecting with a lot of SaaS-based companies, right, that are trying to roll out products that are supposed to revolutionize these DSOs. But the reality is like the change management associated with implementing this product is so high that my recommendation to them is create the service layer in which you are implementing your product to the point in which they can then adopt it and bring it in. And a lot of them are like,
which
no,
is
I don't
hard.
want to be the service layer because that
Yeah,
kills my
that's
product
hard.
company's valuation.
Exactly. So here's the thing that nobody talks about is that everybody loves SaaS companies because they're high they're high revenue, low cost because you don't have a lot of labor. It's all optimized. The problem is that the dental offices are not optimized and they're all brick and mortar. So you can't think of the dental offices like a SaaS product. And if you try
Right.
to approach it that way, where it's just like, yeah, we're just going to make this app and everybody's going to use it, it doesn't work that way because even inside of offices, let alone inside of DSOs, inside of each office, you have people. If you have 5 people working in your office, they're all going to use the software differently. And then you have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have multiple offices that are using the software differently, putting codes in different places. And this is a problem with every single PMS. And it's really hard to get standardization because of that. And the other problem that you run into is that in these dental offices, you don't have a traditional business structure from a leadership standpoint. So, like in my company, I have leaders that all they do is lead. They don't do
Right.
marketing, right? And they have to have that bandwidth to be able to do that. But dentistry's still in this weird spot where you have like, cool, you're at the office, you're doing just office stuff all day. You're working with the patient, you're doing billing, like all the things to do the outcome that we want to get to. But then there's nobody who's sitting there working on the processes and helping roll those out at that level. You have that more at the DSO level, but then the DSOs are usually like, man, how are we going to get the manpower to bring this down to the office level and train everybody? It becomes a big problem, and it's people are trying to tackle it, but it's not easy.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. You nailed it. And that's exactly what Unify, like my vision and goal for Unify is can we simplify the standardization of a process in an organization so that way when I change out these products, right, I want product A instead of product B, can I plug it into an already standardized process that Unify is walking through with every single time somebody does this? So now it becomes plug and play on the outcome that you're just A/B testing these products to see, okay, what's happening, because the process itself is standardized. Like if I come in and say, I want to go in and, I don't know, verify my insurances, I come into Unify, click run this process, and Unify will walk you through this process, right?
Mm.
And so now all of a sudden these
So
products become a lot more
usable.
easy to switch out. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can test them. So if I have a call analytic platform A and call analytic platform B, I can say, okay, I'm going to test this one over here at 5 offices, this one at 5 offices, and the process to roll them out is going to be similar and not such a pain to then pick one and then roll it out across the company because I already built the process. And is that
Yep.
then
Yep.
would you take that process that was built at that company and then universally apply it to all the other people that then use Unify in the future?
We're going to make it so that there are templates, right? If I want an insurance template, I can take this insurance verification template, but the way that my team does it is going to be slightly different. And so I'll go in and I can edit those changes. But ultimately, yes, there is going to be some type of templatization across these different functions in an organization that Unify is going to be able to help standardize for a brand new organization. And that's where the whole
Dude,
optimization
that's huge.
internally of an organization.
That's huge. That is so cool. It's been really cool to see you morph and change this and um, continue to improve on what you're building. I'm really excited about that.
Unify, I think the term unify is more about unifying the process with the tool instead of just unifying all the tools together, which I think a lot of people is where where the term comes from. But it's unifying
Mm.
that process and tool into one singular place.
You need to like a tagline that unifying XYZ.
And I don't think that a lot of people are ready for that yet, right? I think that they still need to understand it differently. A lot of the times it's like, I need this tool to solve my problems. When you're like, no, really, the problem is your process, but that's okay. We'll let you think that it's the tool. And that's where Unify comes in and says, okay, let's figure out which tools you want. And then we'll help you figure out your processes on top
So
of those
good.
tools.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. I run into all the time. I talk to people and they say, this marketing company didn't work. And I go, okay, well, what's going on? What's your phone conversion? What's your unanswered rate? What's your XYZ? And go dig into the office. And it's like, probably it might be the marketing company, but it's definitely your operations too. And maybe the marketing company has no idea what they're doing. Maybe they do. I don't think you would be successful either way with the operations systems that you have right
Yep.
now. And it's just easier just to change marketing companies than to go in and solve all those other things. But most of the time, people don't even realize it. Most people don't even see that this is what they're actually up against. So they're kind of fighting ghost, which is difficult.
Yep. They're fighting their own internal processes.
Man, that's really good. Anything else you want to cover today?
No, man, that was a lot. It's a lot for everyone to digest. I think it was a really good one, though.
It was. I enjoyed it. It flowed nicely. I think we're getting better and better at this. Somebody messaged me yesterday and said, "Man, that was a really good episode." And I talk about all these things with my friends all the time too. So I think we're starting.
Which one was that?
Oh man, I can't remember which episode. I'm not sure which episode. I think it was episode like 6 or something like that.
The AI, the one that just came out.
Yeah, but I think we're starting to find our audience. You know, the people who are not just in the weeds doing the thing, but the people who are thinking about the weeds and building other things. So that's cool. I enjoy this.
All right, cool, man. Well, appreciate it. We'll talk to you then soon.
Peace.